Good morning, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen. We're back on video and also on Spotify. So if you're ever out taking a hike or something like that, you can just listen or watch, whichever you prefer. Questions?
Yeah, lately I was going through something which was like kind of emotional, and I knew the right techniques like to navigate that, but
Good.
the attachment was like quite strong. So even though knowing what I need to do, the mind was always trying to figure out, oh, how can I make this work? Like basically the desire, how can I fulfill that desire?
Did it have to do with
And
a woman?
yeah, it had to do
Yeah.
with a woman.
Women are killers, man.
Yeah,
Because
and
it's so deeply biologically structured into us as mammals and as animals.
mhm.
I mean, as animals, yeah, our purpose is to reproduce, and so those drives are very intense. Now, but so what happened? It sounds like is your mind played tricks on you, or one part of your mind said this, and you were very clear on it, but another part of your mind said that, and it was hell bent, right?
I think one I think one part of mind was like, oh, like knew okay, nothing good is gonna happen, but the other my part of mind was, oh, what if I do this, then I will also get what I want, and it's also gonna be like good for me. So that thing.
Live and learn, my mammalian friend. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's and that's why historically, traditionally, many saints, Christian saints, they talk about it. The Muslims don't. Uh, they did all this austerity stuff,
Hmm.
right? Just to hell with all of it. I'm not going to do any of that. Which probably is maybe a good strategy for celibates.
Hmm.
Uh, I don't know how much the Sufi saints. Well, I don't think that was part of that. At any rate, certain religions, including Buddhism, they had a hell of a time with the young monks, right? So I don't know that there's more to say about that.
I think even in Hinduism, they say the same thing, that you remain like a bachelor until you get married, and the way you get married is through your parents, or like someone brings a girl and then you just marry and that's it. So there's
Right. Well,
no.
that's a social structure, right? We need social structure of some sort, whatever it's going to
Yeah,
be. We need something, and so
yeah,
we look at different cultures, look across history. They had different arrangements, and I'm not sure any of them is an unmitigated blessing, right?
yeah, yeah. So even though
Although
they
if
say.
you can find a partner for life and stick it out together, I've never heard anyone complain about that. I've heard people complain about it, but not
Mhm,
in the end. I think they're happy
mhm.
sometimes.
I think for Yeah, I think for me the last step was when I was like letting it go and deciding, okay, I'm not gonna pursue this. The thought that came up was like, oh, if you're gonna keep doing this, then it will never gonna happen for you. And then to basically just accept that, that was the hard part. That okay, that this is
All
yeah,
right.
this is what it. Yeah.
Okay. Can we get off the sex and romance? Go on to
Yes,
something
yeah,
else.
yes, yes.
Go ahead.
Yeah, the next thing I wanted to ask was this not doing, uh, that I asked you on X as well. So
Not doing. Repeat the post and the question.
yeah, the question was basically what I observed was that whenever I want a favorable outcome, uh, or yeah, yeah, whenever I want a favorable outcome, or I know that like I can get it, it's like it's a drive to do that, and it's not so not doing for me was used to be, oh, I just operate like in my natural way without thinking about like the what I want and like what is the outcome, just do it logically, and it was working until it stops working, like until I see that things are going in a negative direction, then mind starts to kick in, and again it wants like obsess and figure out a way. And
Okay. You're doing violence to reality if you just set favorable or unfavorable outcome. remember the Zen story or the Sufi story. I mean, it's probably in all cultures about the old man whose son was informed that his son had broken his leg falling off his horse, and everybody was kind of sucking up to the old man, saying, "Oh, this is so terrible." And he said, "We'll see," right? And then there's a major war in the land, but his son is not drafted. I mean, he can't fight because of his broken leg. And everybody on the side of this king or whatever was massacred in this battle, except for his son was spared. Right? Mm-hmm. So again, we'll see. And then later the son came back and just burned down the old man's house and just created all kinds of havoc. So, we'll see. You just don't, you can't set a time, you can't set these favorable outcome. I mean, only with maybe things like graduation and getting married and, a birth, can you say, okay, this is a good outcome, this is a good outcome, this is a good outcome. Because reality doesn't have those kind of markers in it. And what could be good turns into bad. And what is bad turns into good. And you just observe this over and over and over, and you become much less likely to be judgmental about anything. And you become much more like the Taoists, right? Who just say, okay, all right, well, this is what's here now. Right? Mm-hmm. And nothing bothers you. And very few things excite you, though, because you know that what appears good could be bad. And it is bad from another perspective, right? Mm-hmm. And then what looks bad turns out to be good. Just look at it. You'll see it in your life. Mm-hmm. So I think that will take care of that problem forever. And so then you just kind of do what you do. You do your work, do your kindnesses to others, and then you don't have to draw these judgments. I mean, okay. From the point of view of John F. Kennedy or John Lennon, was it good to be famous? Mm-hmm. No, they didn't make it to 50, right?
Yeah. So I went through that like a month ago when I had got an injury. So at that time, because I think it was easy for me because there was no other option. So mind was okay, well, like, let's not think about the outcome, like favorable outcome or not. But at this time, I'll give an example. So this time because I am into stock market, so while I was making money, everything was fine and there was no like issue. But then when I started losing money, then it was like, then like the favorable outcome thing kicked in. And because
good. It's very good to notice that. It's good to notice that.
And because I felt like I could do something about it, that's why there was a problem. Earlier, because I knew I can't do anything about it, so it was not a problem.
Good. So just be with what is and surf it, gracefully. Mm-hmm. It becomes especially important around the time of death, right? Mm-hmm. You want to, if possible, you want to surf that thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Surf your way into your new cosmos.
So when you say surf your way into the cosmos,
your new cosmos. So let's look at this. When you were born, the universe didn't exist. The only thing that existed was just this fuzzy stuff in your front of your eyes and this kind of swampy stuff in your ears, right? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. There were no sharp edges. There were no identities. There's no people other than you, frankly. There was no other. There was no trees or birds or stars in the sky. None of that, right? Gradually, as you opened, the universe opens. And now, as an adult, we're in a universe that just keeps flowing. The scientists can't find an end to it. They can't find a center to it. It's just flowing. And so when we die, that universe dissolves with us, obviously. Mm-hmm. But then of course, we could just spin another universe. You know, it's not that it's so it. And so the question of, okay, tell me if this is true or false. Everyone lives in their own universe.
Yeah, their own psychology, yeah, their own different universe. Yeah.
Well, but the psychological universe or the universe of experience is all we have.
Hmm.
Now we can say that we have more because we studied some physics or some astronomy or something like that. And for those people, maybe they do have more. Certainly, if you go out and look at the stars at night, you have more. Your universe is bigger, right? But that's your universe.
Hmm.
And the most important parts of the universe, which are the only things that exist for each person, is experience.
Hmm.
And so everyone has, everyone as a nidus, as a seed of consciousness, as a little uh, star of consciousness, has a universe in which they exist.
Hmm.
Now, that universe, which is made up of experience, what happens when that person's body falls apart?
Yeah, then that universe falls apart.
Yeah, that universe vanishes like everything. Nothing lasts forever.
Hmm.
But then the same power that gave you life, which is your power, right? Or to
Hmm.
continue with life, etc., just creates another universe.
Hmm.
So actually some of the ancient Hindu and Vedic ideas, although the mechanism of reincarnation is probably off, the notion that we will experience again in the same manner, probably, the unfolding of another universe. And we think, oh, well, that sounds outrageous. That's how can you give that kind of power to a human, right? Well, it's not the human that's doing it, first of all. And it's no different than a black hole. My understanding, what's at the bottom of a black hole?
I mean, I don't know.
Most people postulate another universe. I don't know either, but I've heard many folks say, well, there's another universe on that other side. And then if we look at the most current theories of physics, right, they talk about the multiverse, right, which is a very crude and very, primitive way to look at the universe, primarily because none of it can be tested, right? But there's a multiverse for all the quantum forks. So that's the multiverse. But if we listen to the Buddhists, say from the first century and before, and in the second century when it was all codified, we realize that there's as many worlds as there are grains of sand in the human planet, right? As many as stars in the sky, which is the same as the number of grains of sand on our planet. Now, what a star does is I don't want to get uh, to go too far for the sake of people, but when you think about a star, what does it do? It's born. What does it do?
It's born. It like becomes a star. Then eventually it dies. It
Okay,
becomes a
so
dwarf, and then.
it starts as a star
Hmm.
and it grows
Hmm.
and then it falls apart and forms what?
It falls apart. I think it forms like a red giant or
Or some
something.
dwarf or something like
Dwarf.
that.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
and that ends up, sometimes they say, they don't know, I don't know,
Hmm.
that's where black holes come from.
Hmm.
It collapses back into itself
Yeah.
and forms and then tunnels to another universe. Now I don't know if that's true or not, but it's an interesting picture. We have no ideas what dark matter is, right? There are a lot of postulates about it, but there's a lot about the universe we don't understand. But anyway, from the point of view of consciousness, which is all there is, and experience, which is all there is, this experience is just one universe.
Hmm.
And so, if you want, you can believe that the same way this universe was formed in your human mind, when your human mind falls apart, you will then just experience another universe.
Mm-hmm.
You are the Buddha after all. Does that make sense?
Yeah, makes sense. I have two follow-up questions on that, but yeah,
Good,
it
good,
makes
good,
sense.
good.
Yeah. My first question is, so I
Now,
have
let me just
thought
say
about.
something to the audience. I'm not saying this as a fact. I'm saying that this is the most economical way to put together the understandings of the first and second century mystics, right? And so on up until now, the mind only school, the many worlds school, which we had many worlds in the first century, right? You know that from the Avatamsaka, from the flower ornament. So try to put that together with what we know about physics. This is one of the most economical explanations you're going to find for the presence of consciousness on this earth, right? But I'm not making a pronouncement. I'm not Moses, for God's sake, right? Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, so as I kept on like thinking about these things, what like what what I realize, or like what seems to me is the world is like billions or trillions of years old, like the universe is that old,
From the
and
human point of view.
from the human point of view, and even if I look at science or like all the equipments, we probably might not even know maybe like a fraction of the reality
Well,
in our
there's no
lifetime.
question about that.
So if I so if the reality is enormous and we can't figure out even a fraction of it, then
No, well,
speculating about.
we have figured out that experience is all there is, right? We figured that out because if you can show me something that's outside of experience, I'd like to see it because the minute you do, it becomes experience.
Mhm.
So what can there be that's not experience?
So that is true,
Okay, and then
but at the, so
we also know that uh, consciousness is a substrate because we have no other substrate,
mhm,
and we can't. We've tried for like I don't know. Humankind's been around for 300,000 years. I mean, the modern man, Homo sapiens, and the only thing we've been able to come up for as a substrate is consciousness. Now, physicists may, they may squirm because they don't like that idea, but they'll say, well, it's energy, or they'll say it's a quantum field of potential, right? But those are just words,
mhm,
and so we know that the substrate is creative, and it's ubiquitous is too weak a word, but it's like that. It's the
mhm,
fundamental.
mhm,
So we do know a couple of things, but keep going.
mhm. Yeah, like uh, if I look at mystics, like what mystics say experientially, that is there and that is something. But if I look at wanting to measure everything, wanting to be precise with science, then it seems like it's not possible in my lifetime to know reality truly. So then, rather than
Yes, it. Oh,
speculating,
no, no, no. It is. But it's not true for science. Scientists can't measure it because they're using the wrong tools and they're looking in the wrong direction. It's kind of like when they look at telepathy. So have you experienced telepathy?
no, I haven't.
Okay. When your mind opens up, you will, right?
Mm,
And it
mhm,
won't be just one time, it'll be multiple times. And most people, I think, have had experienced telepathy. And if there's new evidence, the Russians put a mother cat in a submarine, right, and put a bunch of electrodes on her, and then they started
mhm,
killing her kittens on shore while she was underwater, and it was very clear that there was a electrophysiological response in the mom. But then recently, there's been the talk about telepathy between autistic kids and their parents, right?
mhm,
And in addition to that, most people have experienced it, sooner or later in their life. Oh, how do we get on telepathy? I was going to say okay. So the way the scientists try and measure it, they
mhm,
put an ad in the paper to get subjects, and they come in and they put them in a cold lab and they say, uh, we're going to measure you as we're going to test your telepathic
mhm,
capacity. That's ridiculous. That's like doing chemistry and you're going to do it in the middle of a swamp or in the middle of a room full of bacteria.
mhm,
In other words, the conditions are wrong to find telepathy, because telepathy, in my experience, by the way, and the Buddhists back me up on this too, it always involves love. that I know of. Yeah, no, not always, but yeah, it's usually reciprocal love, but it can be unilateral love if you have enough power. Do you see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
But you can't create that love in a lab. I mean, you could, and if you did, you'd find telepathy, but then you'd be so wild you'd probably just leave the laboratory and go hang out with your new friend. But do you see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Science can't measure anything really, as you noticed,
Mm-hmm.
except in a relative way.
Mm-hmm.
It has to
Yeah.
compare one thing to another, which is not. That's only a very weak form of measurement. But go ahead.
And especially the theories around like reality, especially like the complex stuff, they keeps on revising it. They might do it and they revise, then do it and they revise again and time. So
Yeah, but we love them, right? We love them. We love
yeah.
Copernicus and Newton and all the. They have the right attitude. Unfortunately, they're just. Well, some of them were quite open. I mentioned the Leibniz, for example, the guy who invented calculus, or one of the guys who invented calculus. There's others. Newton was, whew, but they don't know much about that subject because they've dedicated their lives to something else.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But I think the AIs are going to help us a lot, and I think also quantum mechanics helps a lot, frankly.
Mm-hmm.
And the observer problem in physics is a real problem.
Mm-hmm.
And right now we draw this artificial line between the quantum world and the classical world, but that's just
Mm-hmm.
a human drawn line.
Mm-hmm.
I suspect that what they're going to find is that consciousness, or even the human mind and its ability to experience qualia, is not clonable. Not clonable because of it relies on some quantum effects, because of quantum tunneling effects. Certainly, if birds and leaves use such effects, I think there's no way evolution is going to just limit it to two types of creatures.
Mm-hmm.
So we're in for a real ride.
Mm-hmm. And the ride seems it will keep going for a very long time.
There's no way. The secret protects itself. So at one time we thought the universe revolved around the Earth, or the sun revolved around the sun revolved around the Earth. So that got shut out as we got better measurements and math. Then we got
Mm-hmm.
relativity, right?
Mm-hmm.
That we can't. There's no fixed time. There's no fixed space. Some things can, depending on the light cone, they can occur at or not occur in someone's universe, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then we got quantum mechanics that's saying, oh, there's not really a there that you can rely on. I mean, the closest we can get is something probabilistic. So yeah, it keeps pushing back further and further and further. And that's the same thing with biology. Any biologist will tell you, man, it is ridiculously recondite. I mean, seriously, even one mitochondria, let alone a cell.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, the secret protects itself.
Mm-hmm.
And in mysticism, it completely protects itself until such time as you find an opening.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But even then, the opening then closes. I mean, it's not a permanent, at least not in my experience, it's not a permanent state or stage, although you could revisit it. It's not the same. Revisiting something is not the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
I've probably been spending too much time in contemplation. Ha! So go ahead, questions.
Yeah, so in the big picture, I have like three sets of data. One is like I get the data from the scientific community. Then I get the data from the mystic experiences of other mystics. Then I have data from my own experience. And but then the thing is, how can I even trust my own experience? Like, for example, for me, it seems that everyone has their own universe, but then there is a shared universe that renders within like for each universe.
Well, that's an interesting point. What's the question?
So the question is like, so even if I contemplate about stuff, I'm never able to like totally trust it. It feels like unless I may have like some mystical experience.
Yeah, okay, that's fair, right? But you could still learn quite a bit. Now let's look at this question about everybody has the same universe.
A shared universe, yes.
Well, shared in the sense that it's the same. I mean, there's the same. If I look at the moon, I see one moon, right?
Yeah,
You see
yeah,
one moon.
yeah.
That's interesting. Much of that, much of it, not all of it, could be attributed to the fact that we all share human bodies.
Mm-hmm.
And so for some people, there is no moon. The people that are blind,
Mm-hmm.
right? There's no moon.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but so consciousness needs a transducer. TR. You want to look up transducer so people understand the word transducer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's a device that converts variations in a physical
Okay,
quantity into strength.
slow down and do it clearly so that we get the closed captions.
Got it. A transducer is a device that converts variations in a physical quantity, such as pressure or brightness, into an electrical signal or vice versa.
So it converts a continuous quality like brightness or pressure or anything, right? It transduces it into another form that can be understood or uh,
Mm-hmm.
put into an electromechanical signal.
Mm-hmm.
So we share transducers, right? So let's take a frog. Does a frog see a moon?
I don't know, maybe not. I don't know
I don't
what they
think so
see.
because it's not moving, right? Frogs tend to look only see what's moving. And do octopuses see stars? No, probably not.
Yeah, I don't know.
They
Yeah.
have a different set of transducers than we do. Now, do we
Mm-hmm.
see colored rocks the way octopuses do, or flowers the way butterflies do? No, we don't. They have far more possibilities than we do as human beings. So a lot of the shared, what we call the shared universe, is shared by virtue of the fact that we have a common transducer.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And there does seem to be facts about the world that are universal, but then you have to remember that we're also universal. I know it
Mm-hmm.
seems like we're, just completely separated from the universe and that other people are completely separate from us. But the truth is that we are not separate from the universe and other people are not separate from us.
Mm-hmm.
Now that may take that may take revelation, experience to grok fully. But when you grok it fully, you realize that everything is substrate. The substrate is consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
And when we say everything, that means you, right? Your body or whatever. But that's, again, just a human way of seeing it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there's other elements that are quite mysterious, like mathematics, which are discovered. So there's a design to it all, right? We can see that. It's apparent.
Mm-hmm.
It's really quite extraordinary. And we also have to keep in mind that time and space are both constructs.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we speak as a human would speak.
Mm-hmm.
And it becomes inconceivable, impossible for most of us to imagine how we would deal with another dimension. In addition to, the usual, what, four?
Mm-hmm.
But as Einstein said, it's an illusion. It's a stubborn illusion. It's hard to get rid of, but it's an illusion. Einstein said that about time.
Mm-hmm.
So all of this occurs in a moment that's outside of time.
Mm-hmm.
And one way of speaking about it is when you die, you step outside of time. And you go, this is just a way of speaking about it. As your brain, dissipates and your body dissipates, your consciousness has not moved. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. So even if there are a bunch of transducers, people are receiving different things. It's still really hard to get rid of the idea that there's still some base thing, stimulus, that is leading to these different renditions of that.
Okay. What thing in particular is hard?
So, let's say we see flower a different way, and then other species see flowers a different way.
And other
But
people
there
walk
should
by and
be,
don't even see the flower.
yeah, the other people don't even see it.
So they live in a
But then,
universe. Effectively live in a universe without flowers. Go ahead.
yeah, but then that doesn't mean there is not some thing that is appearing as flower in everyone's in reality in different ways.
Oh, there is. Okay. What is that thing? All right. What I was going to go to immediately was consciousness, but let's do it your way. What is the thing? What is it made of? Let's take the
So that
flower.
is also, yeah, that is also very magical, because if I look at the scientific thing, which is like atoms and particles and things like that, it's still like empty space forms a major portion of it. Uh,
Right. That's contemporary physics. See, because they have no handle on life.
mm-hmm,
The flower is life and beauty,
mm-hmm,
and beauty is truth, and consciousness is truth. I know this is not going to make anybody happy, but the reality is that yes, there is something there, consciousness and life, and without life, there's only consciousness.
mm-hmm.
But what else? Yeah. So you're saying, what am I missing? What would somebody be missing?
Uh, but then the same problem exists, which is when I go to bed and dream,
Okay.
then there is no like base flower, or there's like no base thing. It just mind can conjure up things.
Very good.
That is also, that is also possible.
And just as you conjure up a universe or a world as you sleep in your dreams,
Mm-hmm,
when you die, you conjure up another universe, but it's just
mm-hmm,
sharper and it's more fixed and it's got physical laws or something, the equivalent of what we call physical laws, hidden mathematics, hidden
mm-hmm,
beauty.
mm-hmm. The only argument against that is, in dream, I know it's only my mind that is conjuring stuff, but when I
No,
see other
you
people
don't,
around,
my friend. You think it's only your mind conjuring stuff. You neither can you prove that, nor is it likely. There is a collective consciousness on this planet. There's many of them, but one of them is human. Some of them aren't human, but let's just talk about the ones that are human to make it simple. Do you think you only dream that which is in your mind? I don't know, your mind. Let's pretend it's in your skull. If you believe that, then you haven't been paying attention to all your dreams. You've just
So
been
my
paying
dreams
attention to the
seem,
ones that make sense to you.
so my dreams seem to be coming from memories that have been accumulated in the mind.
They seem to be, but there's other elements that
And
are not memory at all. Is that not true?
yeah, so like it conjures up stuff which didn't really happen to me, but it's similar in a way.
Correct, because there's a noosphere. Anyway, I don't want to get too far into that, but you made a statement. I fall asleep, all right, and then I dream my dreams, and I'm saying,
Hmm.
look at all the eyes in there, right? And remember that those eyes are conditional. They're interdependent. You know, they're it's your eye is construction as a compound. Your
Hmm.
fantasies about how other people see you. Your fantasies about yourself. And where those
Hmm.
derive from? Well, things you've read or things people have said or something totally unrelated that you saw in a film.
Hmm.
Correct? So that eye needs to be scrutinized. And then the dream, I know it feels like it's just about me and my family, and oftentimes it is, right? But just as often, at least in my experience and the experience of all the people I've known, there's other elements completely
Hmm.
bizarre. Now
Hmm.
Freud noticed this and tried to turn it into unconscious symbolism with some
Hmm.
success, I might add. And Jung tried to turn it into archetypes and the working out of this or that. And you could sit down right now, but tonight you can come up with your own dream theory pretty much.
Hmm.
But the point is, it's a human universal, and the contents are not entirely within your control unless you, for a while, try and take
Hmm.
control, which you can do. It's difficult for many people, the lucid dreaming, right? But you can do it.
Hmm.
But again, all that's going to get you is the question of, wait a minute, well, what is this stuff? Okay,
Hmm.
so meaning has no charge, has no spin, has no weight, has no mass. Meaning,
Hmm.
and that's what you're extracting. Meaning.
Hmm.
And when people look for meaning in their life, they need to understand that it's not going to be found in charge, spin, mass, weight, velocity, any of those things. Do you see what I'm
Hmm.
saying? It's a category error.
Hmm. Hmm.
I'm probably going to tweet that out. Meaning has no charge, spin, or weight.
Hmm.
So I guess we'd have to lump it in with dark energy or dark matter. Something we know nothing about. Okay. Other questions?
Yeah, I have a question from Avatamsaka. Let me get the book.
Meaning is a fascinating thing. You can't get to meanings from electromechanical discharge of neurons, right?
Hmm.
Sodium ion bound, sodium ion channels on a cell membrane, and from that you're going to get meaning. Wow, it's just like insane. Go ahead.
Yeah. So this is from the chapter Chief in Goodness, page
Oh, good,
325.
good, 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 good. From the flower ornament scripture, Avatamsaka. Which book is it?
Chief in Goodness.
Chief in Goodness. And what page?
Book 12, page 335.
All right. Go ahead.
Yeah, so this is where they just mention just a little bit about non-origination of things.
Okay. Why don't you read the phrase before and after that?
Okay, yeah. So it says, if one can get beyond the realm of the four demons, then one can reach the stage of non-regression. If one can reach the stage of non-regression, one attains profound acceptance of the non-origination of things. If one attains deep acceptance of the non-origination of things, one will receive the Buddha's prediction of enlightenment.
If one's enlightenment is foretold by the Buddhas, then all the Buddhas will appear in one's presence. If all the Buddhas appear in one's presence, one will comprehend the profound, mystic use of spiritual powers. If one comprehends the deep mystic function of spiritual powers, one will be remembered by all the Buddhas. If one is remembered by all the Buddhas, then one will adorn oneself with the qualities of Buddhahood. If one adorns oneself with the qualities of Buddhahood, one will attain a splendid body of felicity, happiness. Okay. What's the question?
Yeah, so when I read this non-origination of things here, to me it seemed that they are saying
Non-origination, acceptance of non-origination. Yeah.
acceptance of the non-origination of things. To me, it meant that okay, they are saying that nothing has a clear origin.
Nothing has a what?
Nothing has any like clear origin. Like we assume that things have an origin, but
Yeah. Okay.
it's
We're
not really
we're
there.
we're jumping levels of abstraction, but go ahead.
So, but then I was not able to contemplate anything more than that on what is non-origin origination of things they refer to here.
Well, let's for to make it easier, just to make it easier. That's all. Uh, let's say you go to bed and you dream that you feed a pony a carrot.
Hmm.
Where did that pony come from?
It just like like brain made up the stuff, so it was a dream.
So it didn't
So
originate; it just appeared.
it just
Now, where
appeared.
did the
Yeah,
carrot come from?
the same thing. It just appeared.
Exactly. Where did you come from?
I also appear appeared if I
Without
as I look
origination.
back.
So this is another level of understanding, and I mean, you have to be able to drop time out, right? And then you realize there's nothing but the current experience that exists in the world, right? So let's look at so I'm reading a book, and it's about. I mean, it includes those terracotta warriors, right?
Hmm.
And the book, the author wants to write about the emotions, the feelings, the hopes and fears, the loves and thoughts of this particular warrior, Mongol
Hmm.
warrior.
Hmm.
Where are they? Where could they be?
It's just a fabrication in the
They
head.
don't exist.
Hmm.
Now, where is the past?
The past is also just exists in the memory.
It's a narrative. No, you can have people can have the same memory and have a totally different narrative, and then they have a different memory.
Hmm.
So it's just lost. By the way, let me just say something for the old folks. Uh, Borges, Jorge Luis Borges, wrote a beautiful little essay, and at the end of it, he talked about the mystery of memory and the agony of desire. At any rate, this mystery of memory, the agony of desire, I could kind of get, I could understand that, but the mystery of memory, I never quite understood what what he was talking about until I started contemplating it, and now it's been a few years. And let me tell you, memory is mysterious as it gets. It's really mysterious. Anyway, so we have the memory, right? So it doesn't. It has no abode. There's nowhere it exists. And if we look at the future, that's also the same case, right? There's nowhere where it exists.
I mean, I can't find a physical like space where it's stored, but I can see it as a thought in my head.
But that's not the same thing at all. One's thought in the present, which we'd have to call fantasy if you're talking about the future. I mean, you'd have to call it fantasy. Unless you want to push back. What else could you call it?
Well, fantasy, if I'm imagining something, but if it's a memory, then
Okay,
I
so
can.
let's go to, okay, so we're clear about the future, though. That has to be fantasy.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
name an event. Well, I don't know. I don't want it to get too personal, but that's why probably should use an example. When I was a little kid, I was looking out the back seat of my, we were driving through Mexico City for some reason. It was a lot easier back then. I was looking out the back. We were on a big highway, though, the biggest I'd ever seen at that time. And I saw a dog get run over. It was very, shocking for me, and I can remember it like it was yesterday. But what does that memory have anything? Any mass, any charge, any weight, any spin? Where does it exist? Is it real? Could I have dreamt it? Did anybody else experience it? Oh, they couldn't have experienced it the same way. You'd have to be a kid looking out the back window of a car in front. I mean, if you were in the car that hit the dog, you might have felt horror and then guilt or something else. But what is that? And what are you planning to do with it? This ephemeral stuff. What were you planning to do with it?
Not planning to do anything with it. It's just that
Are you sure
it
you weren't
exists.
trying to understand the world with it?
Oh yeah, we do use that
How's
to
that
make
going? How's that
sense.
going for us?
I mean, it's not going great, but it allows us to function.
We forget it the minute it becomes inconvenient. We were, the West, Europe, and the United States were allies with Stalin in Russia.
Hmm.
And it hadn't been for the Russians, we wouldn't have won World War II, literally.
Hmm.
And they forget completely that World War One started just because of one guy got shot in Yugoslavia, and the times were right? So people forget everything if it's convenient.
Hmm.
So, and then they remember also the same way if it's convenient.
Hmm.
So I just don't understand how you can understand the world that way, except to say the world is crazy. It's insane. It's upside down and backwards. I'm sorry. I don't know if I'm helping you here. So go ahead. Let's get back to your point.
Yeah, yeah. I was just trying to understand this non-origination of things.
For something to have origination, in the first place, there must be time. Now, I
Hmm.
want you to name one thing that does have an origination of its essence. So point one has to do with time. Point two, name one thing that has an essence.
But has an essence.
Mm-hmm. Because the essence would have to originate somewhere, but let's talk about something that does have an essence.
Essence is something that like I can't see. Like if I look at this mic that I have, it's a physical object. I can't say whether it has essence or not. But
Okay.
I've
Well, then,
read
okay. So you can't name anything. Okay. So, but that's so you're talking about something without essence. I agree with you, by the way. Now, name something that does have essence.
like let's look at like human beings. So I've
Okay.
read that
But
human
what are
beings
human
have
beings
essence.
made of?
Physical stuff at least, plus something more that I don't.
It's just compounded, right? It's just we're a combination of a lot of things: bacteria, viruses, genetics, mitochondria, blood cells, brain cells, this and that. But we're all kind of put together, and the product we call a human being. Fair enough.
But that's the
So
body.
now tell me what the essence of a human being is. These aren't trick questions. What's the essence of a human being?
Yeah, so that's the body, but maybe
The
there's something
body?
more to it.
How could the body
Like
be
all
the
the
essence? You can cut off your legs, cut off your arms, and you're still there.
no, no, I'm not saying that body is the essence. I'm saying what you described is the body of the human being, but
Correct.
there, but maybe there is something more to it that
There is,
I
and
am
that's
not,
what I'm asking you about. There
but
is
I'm not
something
able
more
to,
to it. What is it?
but I'm not able to see or dissect it or get a hold of it.
Well, that sounds like it's not originated, also. Okay, so I would argue that the essence of the human being, because he's alive, the living human being,
Hmm.
is consciousness. But where did consciousness originate from?
That, yeah, I don't have a handle on that.
All
I
right, but
don't
do you
know.
have more of a handle on this phrase non-origination?
Yeah, that, yeah, that I feel like I have
Okay,
more
good. So
idea.
that question we could
Okay.
put as answered.
Yeah,
All right,
yeah.
good. And all things are like that, by the way. All things.
Hmm. Hmm.
And all things will not last. On the other hand, the non originated, the creator,
Hmm.
the essence, God, truth, always abides.
Hmm.
All right? Next question.
Hmm.
We're going to have to stop pretty soon.
Yeah, I also have to go for a meeting. But just one last thing.
Okay,
There's
sir.
also dependent origination that
Yes.
they talk about.
Yes.
So that I was also trying to understand.
Okay,
I
so
can
so uh let's take anything. Name an object, any object in the universe.
let's say I take my phone.
Okay. Your phone to exist depends on somebody providing the metal for the
Yeah,
case, on somebody providing the silicon for the uh, transistors, somebody providing the glass for the screen. Its its existence and everything about it depends on other things. In other words, it
yeah.
interdependently originates, and so does everything else in the universe.
Hmm.
I suppose if you got down to quarks, people would argue, like they did for other subatomic particles, they couldn't be divided further, right? But then eventually they divided further, right? So for practical purposes, and actually in reality, there's nothing in this universe that doesn't exist by interdependent origination. This is a very important construct, the foundation of emptiness, the understanding of Buddhist emptiness. So nothing exists inherently. Everything depends on everything else. Let's take the net of Indra.
Hmm.
All right. You know, for people that don't know about the net of Indra, there's videos on it, and I think also there, you know, you could just ask Grok. Now, in addition to the net of Indra, let me see. There's one more way of doing this. Oh, we could go to, isn't it Rupert Spira who says that, you know, no, is it Rupert Spira? It could be Eckhart Tolle. I don't know. It says if you have a thought or if you breathe a breath, then that's a cosmic event because everything's connected to everything else, and it requires the cosmos to go along with that breath,
Hmm.
or it's not going to happen. Who's the Dharma teacher that talks like that?
That I don't know.
I think it's Rupert Spira. Anyway, it's a true point. It's a good point. So everything is
Yeah.
interdependent. Everything is interconnected. Everything doesn't exist except by virtue of something else, and all of it is consciousness. Okay, sir?
Yeah.
Oh, my bell sounds good. Okay. Anything else?
No, that's it. Thank you.
Vaya con Dios, mi amigo. Take care.